I don't know. I was thinking about like how many freaking memes came from that show. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And just not only the memes, but the iconic jokes. I feel like in our generation, I don't know why it was so relatable, but I feel like every single person I know has seen SpongeBob, aside from a few like outliers, but everyone knows the SpongeBob quote from somewhere. Like they're the most memorable quotes of any show. To this day, I can drop a random SpongeBob quote in mid conversation and have no remorse on it. It's just like an instant reflex.
Yeah, and I think something about the show that for me like really gave it a lot of, I guess, like joie de vivre or something was like this. Was like SpongeBob is so just like as a character, he's just so optimistic. You know what I mean? Like he's just like happy and just. And that's just kind of like, and he's also like an adult sponge. Like, there's like the joke about him watching porn on the show with the anemone. Yeah, no. But like, he's still just he has a job that like kind of sucks, but he doesn't really care. He's just happy. And that's kind of like weirdly aspirational for a lot of people in our generation, because then you have like other characters in the show like Squidward, who's just a complete cynic, and then Patrick, who's kind of a dumbass, and then Mr. Krabs, who's just like greedy, and so it's just like, for me, it's just kind of like it kind of gives you like, kind of like a picture into adulthood as a child, but also what it can be based on like which character.
And I was absolutely about to agree with you on that. I think it kind of reminded me of that meme where like it was kind of the realization where like when you were a kid you kind of related more to SpongeBob and being optimistic, and then as you grow into an adult you started to relate more and more with Squidward and SpongeBob less.
Okay, trim your beard, Trotsky. Let's. Welcome back to the Southern Fried Humanitarian Podcast, the only podcast where your two hosts are two humanitarian workers from the South. We're living far from home, exploring the differences in our regionality, culture, and across the world. I'm Sam, and I'm joined by Prey. Prey, how's it going, man?
How's it going, Sam?
Dude, I'm good, man. Dude, I'm good, man. Just after a long, hard day of working, fighting a good fight, being badass humanitarians that we are, we're out here recording our little podcast.
Yeah, it's like days like the day where I feel like Squidward. I was SpongeBob.
Man, why do you feel like Squidward, bro?
Cause just, alright, it's one of those things where like you're just kind of done with dealing with people for a little bit, and it's just like you've been in the restaurant industry, you know how it is, where you're just that mentally exhausted. Again, I love what I do, but there are just times where you get tired of like dealing with the same thing. Or you just get tired of like dealing with people. Everyone has that moment where it's just like, hold up, I need to recharge.
I mean, yeah, I love ice cream, and I can't have it all the time. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like that. I mean, yeah, I love humanitarian work, but bro, this shit's exhausting sometimes.
It is, but again, like, we were just talking earlier about like SpongeBob and stuff, and I think, where we left off was more of like talking about how, well, at least I was talking about like how as a kid you always kind of, relate more with SpongeBob because he's such like optimist. He's basically like the adult version of a big kid, and like of course you can't deny Patrick also being huge involvement in that. But you always kind of resent Squidward for being such a grouch. But then you realize as you grew older that like, Squidward kind of had a point. This shit sucks.
Yeah, I don't know. For me, like, I don't know. A lot of the time, for me, a lot of the stuff where like my life, a lot of points in my life where it just kind of sucked was like a lot of those problems were kind of my own making. You know what I mean? I'm speaking for myself here, but like for this kind of show, like I remember.
I mean, most of Squidward's life decisions was kind of on his own, like.
Yeah, I mean, you chose to work at the Krusty Krab. Okay, you could have moved away from Bikini Bottom. We know there are other places, and you're just gonna kind of sit here and wallow in your own misery. It's kind of like I kind of feel bad for the guy. Like and not like, oh, realizing like Squidward makes more sense. It's like it's kind of like, to me that kind of reminds me of like those, like, you know, those like dumb old Facebook memes. They were like, you know, as a kid you grow up, you idolize Batman, but then and you're an adult, you realize the Joker makes more sense. It's kind of like, it's a little cringy, like, you know what I mean?
It is, but it does have its points. I feel like, especially with SpongeBob, it's just more of the dynamic of the characters. It's just so quotable. And how it's personified.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. Like, and like the characterization is done really well. Like, not to say Squidward doesn't have good points, but you know, like, or that like the character doesn't have any value, because he does. You know, it just to me feels like
it's just like a nice little take. Cause like there's like a whimsical side to how you can view life, like SpongeBob, where you know you can take pride and joy in your work. It doesn't matter like what you do. You can be a fry cook, but as long as like that makes you happy, life is what you make of it. And with Squidward, you know, that's not what makes him happy. You know, what makes him happy is like playing his shitty clarinet. Like that makes him happy. That it kind of shows like there's ways to make yourself happy. Mr. Krabs, money, Plankton, stealing formulas, and plowing his like robotic wife.
Yeah, how does Plankton have a dick? Like,
I mean, he's got an antenna.
Where does he put, like, is there a USB port?
But my thing is like, you know how a starfish can regenerate?
Yeah.
So if you were to cut like Patrick in half, would that make two Patricks?
No, I don't think so.
I mean, but just think about that. If you were to make two Patricks off that, would it be half as smart or half as dumb?
I'm not a scientist. I'm not a scientist, dog. You know, I mind my, you know, I mind my damn P's and Q's on that one, bro. But let me tell you. But let me ask you something like else. Like, so at our work, we have like our clients, man, and they will like, and our clients can just be like, they remind me. Sometimes they remind me so much of the customers on SpongeBob. You know what I mean?
Yeah, honestly, it's just like tall orders, and you're just like, so you know what, Bubble Bass comes in. And
We serve food here, sir.
it's like, let me get a quarter-pound fish and cheese and make it swim. It's like, what?
No, I was literally on the phone yesterday. I had to like pinch hit as an interpreter, basically. I subbed in as an interpreter yesterday, and I had the client literally tell me that I was bad at my job.
I mean, you do get that too sometimes, but like,
It's so funny though. Like, I'm just like, or just like, dude, you know, you can't just say these things to, like, you can't like, and I'm not bemoaning it. I get like people have like their own like sort of, you know, I mean, we're working with humanitarian immigrants. They've kind of been through some shit. So I'm like I'm always going to kind of give them a bit of a pass on that kind of stuff. But like, it's at a certain point, it's like, bro, I'm trying to help you here.
yeah. At a certain point, you always feel like they're getting to they're trying to see how much they can like get from you. It's kind of like, you know, there are people. This is not like always the case, but you know how some people like, if you know, generous goods you give out, people start taking it, but then you always have like the bad actors that will try to see how far they can push, like getting a free meal. So it, of course, you know, it's one of those situations where, like, if you need a free meal, like, that in of itself is not like anything to like put down upon a person, but it's just like, you know, there are others too, so let's focus on them as well. You know, we're all in this together. You can't be taking more than you need. But
yeah, and this is where like I'm able to kind of, especially like interactions like that with clients, I'm able to kind of pull out a little bit of gratitude for my my southernness, if you will, because like the way my mama taught me and like the way my grandma taught me like about manners and stuff, you know what I mean? Like, as like, because like for me, I will never ever like, or like if I meet a woman, you're ma'am, like it's not an insult, but I'm gonna refer to you as ma'am. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's like, I think that's part of like the Southern hospitality etiquette that we really couldn't get away from. Like, all my Southerners know that you instinctively say yes sir, yes ma'am, no sir, no ma'am, to any person that's like appears to be older than you. It's just a reflex, and it's just like even earlier today when we were holding doors for people, like there's been times where like I see someone walking down and I would just hold the door and wait like a minute for them to come out, and it's just that awkward moment of them like realizing, oh, you're holding the door for me, let me speed walk it, and they're just rushing out. But in the South, that's kind of what you try to do, and they still say thank you. But up here, they're like, the fuck?
Bro, what are you? It's like, bro, what are you?
Like, get away from me, creep. Like, what? It's like, I'm just trying to.
No, this is manners, like, and like, so yeah, like, and like, I think as a humanitarian worker, like, those sort of manners can kind of cross over into like being, I guess, culturally sensitive in a way. You know what I mean? So like, if you're like there are a lot of things like that Southern culture has in common with other cultures, and like the fact that we put such an emphasis on manners in the South makes me like kind of grateful for that. Like for example, like there's a custom I know in Middle Eastern culture where if you're going to a new place for the first time, you have to bring a gift. It has to be something. Ben, we do that in the South too, you know.
I feel that it's also. I feel like that's like, you know, across a lot of other cultures too, because like, that's like a housewarming gift. Like, you always. I think it's being respective to like the host. Like someone brought them in, he brought you into their home. They're etiquette dictates they're gonna feed and clothe you and all that. So the least you can do is provide something of like a value. It's not like you kind of saying like, thank you so much. I know like what you're doing to me is disproportional to this gift, but I still wanted to at least get you something nice.
Yeah, it shows like it shows a little humility, it shows a little gratitude, little, and you're just you're respecting someone for providing a service for you, and I feel like you don't really get that in any other place in the country. You know what I mean?
But also like what kind of ties in with like Southern manners is also like Southern etiquette. But I always kind of have like a bad feel about like when it comes to like using both those, because like anytime I hear Southern manners and etiquette, I'm always thinking antebellum South, and I'm just like, yeah, not not the best like avenue of why we have it, but you know, but manners and like etiquette are two different things. Like manners, like Southern manners, like you dictate you bring a host or hostess a gift when you're invited to their home. Etiquette is like you use a certain type of fork for your salads. You don't put your elbows on the table.
Well, that I would say that's more manners than anything.
I feel that's more etiquette because like it's not proper to put your elbows like on the table, but like manners is more of like you're showing respect.
I get you. I guess like etiquette's more, I guess, formalized, and it's like very specific and localized. Where manners you take with you. How's that? Yeah. So, but for me, if I'm eating, if I'm at someone's dinner table, you best believe I'm not putting my damn elbows on that table. You better believe I'm putting that napkin in the lap. You better believe if I'm with my lady friend, I'm pulling out her chair for her. You better believe it, man.
Yeah, honestly, that's actually one of the examples they have. I was looking through like Southern manners in their list and etiquette. The napkin on the lap, that's etiquette.
I mean, that's just you're supposed to do that.
Also, don't forget, it says, don't gossip unless you begin with pray for her or him, or bless her or him's heart.
Bless their heart, I tell you that. But for me, so for me, I'm just saying, like, but I will say this, like, I grew up with my mama. My mama worked, my grandma worked, and they, kind of taught me of like, and maybe this is like a little, I don't know. For me, it's like there's a right way to treat a woman. You know what I mean? Yeah. And there's a wrong way to treat a woman. And like my mama taught me, if you're a man and you're out at night with a woman, you are, you're walking closer to the street than she is. You know, like you walk a woman to her car at night if it's at night in the city, or anywhere really. It's just like I feel like there are these ideas of like I feel like the idea of being a gentleman is something we should kind of, or not something we should as like a society. I'm just saying something like that I personally try to strive for, and that to me that means just like
I mean, it does sound kind of like, very kind of generic, like masculine traits. But it's also like, you can also use that a lot for like equality. Because my mom always taught me how to treat a woman, like, and like my dad always taught me how to treat other men. But it's also just like both those kind of take the same way. In which case, like for me, it always bled through. Like I always do, like I always go out of my way to always be friendly to people, make sure that they're treated right. Even like when I drop off people at their house or their car, I always make sure they're in and either inside their home or they get on the car and they're able to go home. Just as like, closure for me, just to know that they actually made it, they're safe. It can. The only reason I said it is because like it sounded very like the man being protective and just kind of like protecting the pack or protecting like people.
Well, I think for me, it kind of, for me, it's like, women are obviously people, and there's a right way to treat people. How's that? So,
that's the best way we can boil it down to.
And it's this is more cultural than anything. It's not to say, like, like, did you hear about, last night in Louisiana or yesterday in Louisiana, a judge blocked a bill basically saying that abortion is legal in Louisiana, but I don't know if that's a little too far off topic from where we are. You know what I mean? Because as I think I've talked about this before. Obviously this is a pro-choice podcast, but I don't think we need to really delve that far into it if we're on the topic of manners.
I mean, proper manner and etiquette dictates that you should let the lady decide.
Exactly. A true Southern gentleman lets a woman have her choice.
Exactly.
Y'all means all.
Say it loud and say it proud.
Y'all means all. Mm-hmm. But yeah, man, I'm just saying, that's for me. It's like, yeah, it was a good. We kind of got there. We got there.
Yeah, I was about to say like just to bleed back and do a U-turn. I just thought about this when we were talking about SpongeBob. How accurate is Sandy Cheeks when it comes to being a Texan? Let's discuss that for a little bit.
How okay, so Sandy, so for our listeners out there, I used to live in Texas for 3 years, and
Can you confidently call yourself somewhat of a Texan, or?
I mean, I'm registered to vote there, so Texas Green Party going all the way. So my vote counts. But yeah, so for Sandy, it's kind of like, I don't know. It's a stereotype in the sense of the word. It's like, yeah, it's just kind of what a Texan is like, But I don't know. I've never met any like anthropomorphic talking squirrels in my day, so I can't really say if can't really speak to her accuracy as a character. Home, Texas. I wanna go home. But yeah, no, like I don't know, man. Barbecues and pecan pies. When I'm so far from you, Texas, all I can do is cry. Stupid.
No, I'm Texas.
What's the difference? Anyway, so we pulled that U-turn. But something, Sandy always had, like, she had good manners, she was very hospitable. SpongeBob and Patrick, she gave them every chance. What? So where'd you learn your manners? That's what I want.
Honestly, it's kind of like a mix, because the way I'll describe it out. My upbringing was kind of unique, so to say. Like it wasn't like for most like immigrant families, they just kind of like have their immediate family and like a couple of like outside friends. But for me, like my family was already kind of like mixed in, because my aunt basically like is a white woman from New York. Um, so basically, from her, like she moved down to the south before I was even born. Um, Her family lived down there, so essentially, yeah, I basically kind of picked up on it. And it's kind of like it kind of shows how like deeply ingrained like manners and etiquette and how important they are in like the South. Because you'll see a lot of people like they may not follow all the rules of like put a napkin on your lap, no elbows on the table apparently, but the whole you would still like hold the door for people, still say yes ma'am, no ma'am, like to an elder. There's little things that you still show respect towards people, and it's just like again, back in my neighborhood, like you would say hi to your neighbors.
Yeah, they don't do that here. Like you're not supposed to say like you don't like it's like taboo to say hello to someone on the street. I told you about that jogger one time. Like it's like I was like, hey, good job. Like keep going, keep it up. She just goes F off, creep. I'm like you.
Yeah, I mean, just like I'm just trying to give you some encouragement.
Yeah.
Like, I ain't trying to be creepy or anything. It's just how we are in the South. We just try to be as nice as possible. It comes off as creepy, like to the people, like who go up, like, because honestly, I do have like some moments where like people from the deep South, like all the way down from Georgia or Alabama, they be doing some shit that I'm just like that. I get Southern hospitality, but like that's just being too auspicious. Like it almost felt like a whole Get Out situation. Granted, they were basically white blondes with a pound of makeup on, so you're already kind of just like trapped. Also, it was kind of a, how people have trophy rooms and shit?
Yeah, sure.
Basically, I was just in a trophy room out in the countryside, far away from like an actual city.
Yeah, I've been in those situations. Those are, but as a person, yeah, I was about to say like.
Yeah, but when you're a brown person in that, like the only outlier in that otherwise homogenous shade group. But no, here's my thing. These people literally had a trophy room, and they had like elephant heads and lion heads. They literally went to Africa to trophy hunt.
That's disgusting.
Yeah. So like that in itself, like I can handle a buck or two like deer heads like on the walls. That's like all right. I know a bunch of redneck friends. I know where to lie down out in the country with like have a little bit of dip.
Oh yeah, I mean like I don't really hunt, like, or I never really hunted, but like I get it. But like if you're leaving the country to go hunt, first of all, you ain't no.
And to bring back like the head of that animal.
Yeah, that's gross, man. Like.
But again, it very much was an intimidating environment for me.
I mean, I guess if that's the purpose of it. But yeah, man, like I don't know. Anyway, we got ad copy to read. It's time for fake ads. Today's episode is, of course, brought to you by Viacom. Viacom, because we'll allow you to use anything of ours for free.
It was brought to you by Disney. Disney, we own your childhood.
This episode is brought to you by the film Minions: The Rise of Gru.
This episode is brought to you by Yahoo. We still exist for some reason.
This episode is brought to you by Alexa. Good listener.
This episode is brought to you by Siri. Siri, I didn't quite catch that. Can you say that again?
This episode is brought to you by Trojan brand condoms. Because when you think of condoms, you want to think of ancient Greece.
I was about to say, when you think about condoms, you don't want to think about the horse that penetrated just to Like the false flag.
When you think condoms, think horses.
This episode is brought to you by the Waffle House. Waffle House.
If we're closed, you know it's bad. And of course, today's episode is brought to you by the U.S. State Department. We exist. And of course, today's episode is brought to you by Microsoft Bing. Why? I think we're about out of time, so thanks for listening. Remember to please like, subscribe, share around to your friends, comment some topics you want us to talk about in future videos.
Y'all be good, you hear?